Chapter 2120. Wherever the sword light went, the densely packed crowd seemed to suddenly evaporate. Boom! The sword light was 100 feet thick when it melted, and all the people from the three great sects within its range were turned into ashes without exception. 4 or 5 beginner sages and 7 or 8 celestial beings from the three sects rushed forward like crazy. Block! Every single one of them channeled their lifetime's worth of cultivation to resist with all their might. Facing such a terrifying sword energy, fighting back was just a joke. If they could block it, they would be happy. Even if they resisted with all their might, they might not be able to block it. However, if they didn't block it, they were afraid that after this bloody alley, 70 to 80% of the over 3,000 sect disciples present would be finished. Boom! It was as if the two most dazzling meteors had suddenly collided while flying high in the sky. More than a dozen experts scattered in all directions like exploding bombs. So what if it was the ultimate version of Slaughter the World? With extreme compression and extreme explosion, the power was at the peak of the skill. Such a terrifying attack was almost equivalent to a beginner sage gathering all his life force to self-destruct. Such power was unstoppable. Of the dozen or so experts who were fighting head-on, all of them were spurting out blood. 5 of them were already limp and powerless when they were flying through the air. They were completely unable to control their bodies. Blood spurted out of their bodies like rainbows as they flew far away. The few great elders with the highest cultivation were sent flying, blood spurting out from their mouths. Their internal organs were shaken violently, and they felt dizzy. As for the sword light, it was scattered for a moment because of this strong interception. Then, it condensed again and resolutely rushed towards the scattered crowd. The street where the incident happened was quite wide. As one of the main streets of Lone Bamboo City, it could accommodate a large number of people. But at this moment, the once spacious street seemed extremely narrow. Waves of blood surged up without stopping. In just a moment, the entire street was dyed in a layer of bright red. A hoarse voice laughed. How rare! So many people lined up and waited for me to kill them. If I don't fulfill your good intentions, I would be letting you down. I would regret it for the rest of my life. Amidst the wild and arrogant laughter, the sword light that was as wide as the entire street shook inexplicably, and then shot straight up into the sky. Behind him, a figure pounced forward at an indescribably terrifying speed. It was mixed with a heart-wrenching roar. Stay! The person who came later was the great elder of the Iron Sword sect. So far, the three great sects had suffered heavy losses, especially the Iron Sword sect. Almost all of them had been wiped out in this battle. Faced with such an outcome, the great elder of the Iron Sword sect went mad. At this moment, he had already lost all reason. The only thought in his mind was to destroy the source of all this. Even though the great elder of the Iron Sword sect could already foresee that the sword light was about to fly far away, he still chased after it with all his might. Activating all of his elemental life force, he actually managed to catch up to Chu Yang, who was fleeing at full speed, right after the first strike. Bastard! Where do you think you're going? Hand over your life. The great elder of the Iron Sword sect shouted harshly as he charged forward, without any regard for his own safety. Chu Yang's heart suddenly trembled. He did not dare to be careless. Gathering his remaining strength, he waved the Calamity sword in the air. With a boom, the two collided in the air. Bang, 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 puff, puff, puff. A series of sounds completely intertwined at that moment. The entire process seemed to take a long time to describe, but in fact, the two separated as soon as they touched. Chu Yang let out a miserable groan, and once again rose into the air. He staggered in the air, and then groaned, strong. He opened his mouth, and a mouthful of scarlet blood turned into a blood mist, and dissipated in the air. Then the sword light flashed, and this time it really disappeared. No one could chase after it anymore. However, those who were observant could see that although the speed of this sword light was extremely fast, and it was impossible to catch up to it, the sword shadow was faintly wobbling. It was obvious that the person who had attacked it was seriously injured. This point was clearly seen by the great elder of the Demon Ghost sect, who was especially concerned about it. However, at this moment, almost everyone was seriously injured. Even if they wanted to chase after it, They were already powerless, and could only sigh helplessly. Unless they were like the great elder of the Iron Sword sect, and chased after it without a care for their lives. However, they were still somewhat reluctant to give up their lives. After all, the other two sects were not as bad as the Iron Sword sect. They still had strength to spare. Great Elder. The remaining 100 or so people of the Iron Sword sect cried out sorrowfully. In the air, the Great Elder's body floated and spun as he fell to the ground. His throat, forehead, heart, back, neck, head, lower abdomen, chest, dantian, everywhere that could be fatal blood spurted out. His pair of eyes had already become hollow and numb. He spun as he fell from the air lifeless. Like a piece of withered land in late autumn, he fell into the arms of his brothers who were crying like rain. He was already on the verge of death. He had used all of his strength, and had struck Chu Yang with 10 palms in a row. He had left Chu Yang with the most serious injuries since the beginning of this surprise attack. But his body had also been stabbed 17 times by Chu Yang's sword in a frenzied manner, as if his life depended on it. The Calamity Sword swallowed every sword. It devoured the Great Elder's boundless life force. After 17 swords, the Great Elder of the Iron Sword sect had already lost all his life force. There was no way to reverse the situation. There was no chance of survival. Opening his lifeless eyes, the Great Elder of the Iron Sword sect suddenly laughed hoarsely. He muttered, "One cannot have a guilty conscience. If one has a guilty conscience, one will definitely lose." Suddenly he struggled to get up. He struggled to raise his head and laughed bitterly. "If one has a guilty conscience, one will definitely die." He laughed hoarsely again. Suddenly, blood flowed out from his 7 orifices. He muttered, "Tell the sect master. Just for the sake of the Iron Sword sect's hundreds of thousands of years of foundation, is it possible to disregard one's conscience? Really? Is it worth it?" The Iron Sword sect disciples who were hugging him all cried bitterly. However, the Great Elder had already closed his eyes. He had closed his eyes forever. There was no possibility of him opening them again. Although blood was still flowing from his body, he no longer made any sound. He was dead. One person, one sword, came unhindered and left unhindered. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. The other party did not even stop. However, the thousands of people from the 3 great sects who had gathered here had been reduced by 2/3. Although everyone knew that the person who had come had paid a huge price, such an outcome still shocked everyone. Even Uncle Hu and Uncle Ma, who were watching from afar, were shocked. In terms of cultivation, they were already at the pinnacle of the beginner saint level. Either one of them was confident that they could face that person head-on and not be at a disadvantage. They could even win. However, to achieve such a result, even if both of them were to attack at the same time, they might not be able to achieve it. One must know that none of the people here were mediocre. Every one of them was a true expert of the saint level or above. Sharp. Uncle Hu took a deep breath. Sharp indeed. Uncle Ma's eyes were deep in thought. This person had attacked a few times. The first attack was that night. The 3 great sects lost 1,000 people. The entire process was silent. The second attack was at the city gates in the early morning. He killed more than 300 people with one sword. There was only a moment between the third and the second attack. Several hundred people from Iron Sword sect died at the city gates. The fourth attack was in the middle of the night. He killed 400 people in a surprise attack. Then, he intercepted and killed the reinforcements. He did it 3 times. Today is the 8th time he's made a move. Uncle Ma's eyes were filled with intense shock. These 8 attacks have killed nearly 8,000 people. More than half of the elites of the 3 great sects in Moyan Sky have been cleaned up by him alone. Uncle Hu's face twitched. The 3 great sects only sent a little more than 1,000 people this time. But now almost 8,000 people have died in this person's hands. If we count the people killed by Tai He and this Tan Tan, the number of people from the 3 great sects who are still alive is probably less than 1,000. After calculating in this way, the two of them looked at each other in shock. They didn't know before calculating, but they were shocked after calculating. Only then did they realize that the people from the 3 great sects were almost all killed by that person. As for those who were killed by the combination of a certain person and Tai He, although it wasn't a hair on an ox, It was only a few dozen people. It was basically negligible. All that could be seen was a gloomy and miserable fog. The ground was full of blood and broken limbs. It was like an artificial azure hell. And it was in such a short period of time. Yao Ningning stood there and was truly shocked by this sudden turn of events. He stared at the scene of purgatory in the human world. He only felt the shock and worship in his heart coming like a tsunami. This was the act of a hero. This was the blood of the Jianghu. This was a massacre. Taihe was still sighing from the bottom of his heart. He was immersed in a daze. When things just happened, Tan Tan wanted to pull him and escape in the chaos. But Yao Ningning didn't react at all. Tan Tan, whose cultivation was inferior, couldn't pull Taihe away no matter what. Tan Tan was also helpless. What was going on with this guy? Why did he suddenly act like an idiot at this time? He couldn't pull him away. He couldn't just run away by himself, right? Therefore, Great Demon King Tan could only helplessly accompany him. His heart was infinitely tangled. Your sister. Even if you wanna fucking go crazy, can't you change the time and place? This is a battlefield now, Great Master. Chu Yang was seriously injured, but his heart was very calm. In Chu Yang's opinion, the chaos he had created after such a big massacre was enough for Tan Tan to escape 100 times. With Tan Tan's intelligence, and more importantly, with Chu Yang's sound transmission, Tan Tan would seize the opportunity to escape no matter what. Therefore, even though he had completely emptied himself this time, and had even seriously injured himself, it was still very worth it. Chapter 21-21. Especially this time, he didn't expose his relationship with Tan Tan at all. Chu Yang left without looking back. He was very calm and relieved. At this time, he had to find a hidden place to heal himself. If he delayed any longer, he might be the first to leave. But he never thought that there would be someone in this world who would be in a daze and worship him in such a situation. So much so that even the main target Tan Tan couldn't leave. Fortunately, Minister Chu didn't look back. If he looked back and saw that Tan Tan and that guy were still standing in their original positions, Mo Yuntian's people wouldn't need to do anything. Chu Yang would definitely be so angry that he would vomit blood and die. Until the sword light that Chu Yang transformed into disappeared completely, Yao Ningning suddenly came back to his senses. His eyes were still full of fervent worship. This is the first time I've seen such a powerful person in my life. He's really too domineering. The Grand Elder wasn't stingy with his praise. Too arrogant. Too cool. He's simply too cool. How can there be such an extraordinary man in this world? Under Tan Tan's speechless gaze, Yao Ningning had shockingly turned into a groupie in an instant. Wahaha. I admire him so much. He's simply too handsome and cool. He's so awesome that there's no limit to it. He's so cool that it's inhumane. Waha. I must get to know this person. My idol. Tan Tan looked at a certain old man dumbfoundedly. He felt that his nerves, which had always been thick, suddenly spasmed at this moment. Big brother, I know that you're shocked, and I know that you worship him. I also know how you feel in your heart. To be honest, I feel the same. But can you stop talking now? My senior brother has left, but there are still so many people here who haven't been killed. Originally, those guys were in grief and fear. Even if you dragged me down and made me miss the best chance to retreat, we still had a chance to escape. But you're actually sighing with emotion at this time, and so loudly? Are you afraid that you can't attract hatred? Even if you're tired of living, I haven't lived enough yet. Save me. Sure enough, as Tan Tan expected, once Yao Ningning said this sentence, the remaining 700 to 800 people all turned their heads. No matter which sect they were from, everyone's eyes were red as they stared straight over. His eyes were filled with deep hatred. So many of our people have died, and that guy over there is actually clapping his hands and praising the murderer? In the face of so many people's gazes, Yao Ningning was calm and composed without any fear. He could even maintain that reckless look, and even said with a little exultation, "Today's battle is really too satisfying. Think about it, when you are surrounded, and someone suddenly appears out of nowhere." He stared at the sky with his eyes wide open, his imagination running wild. He's just like a powerful demon god attacking. Oh, it's really too shocking. Black clothes, black robe, black mask, and his sword flashed like the scorching sun in the sky. Under his powerful attack, all the enemies melted like snow, instantly vanishing into thin air. He came suddenly and left suddenly. What kind of realm is this? With just one strike, he was able to retreat unscathed. Peerless elegance. Oh, I want to learn from him. I must learn from him. As Yao Ningning spoke, his blood seemed to be boiling. He was unable to contain his joy. Tan Tan, don't you think he's handsome? Isn't he handsome? Isn't he handsome? Isn't he handsome? Tan Tan only felt that his throat was dry. For the first time in his life, he hated the word handsome so much. Handsome my ass. No matter how handsome he was, it wasn't as important as his own life. He swallowed a few mouthfuls of saliva dryly and said, I think, shouldn't we think of a way to escape first before talking about other things? Yao Ningning disagreed. He gestured with his hand and said disdainfully, Escape? What escape? We have the upper hand now. Just these people. TSK. Even if they were given 3 more guts, they wouldn't dare to attack me. I've really burned them. They actually dared to brandish their swords at me. Have they all put the guts of the leopard clan in their chests? The chest of the great elder of the ghost clan rose and fell rapidly. He glared at Yao Ningning and said through his teeth, Everyone attack together. Kill him. Kill this little bastard at all costs. He roared, Kill this fucking bastard. All the people of the 3 great sects roared in anger at the same time. Kill this fucking bastard. Fucking bastard? The main party involved, Yao Ningning, and the secondary party Tan Tan, didn't feel anything when they heard these words. Especially Tan Tan. As the saying goes, there's no good way to scold someone. When he was in the Heaven Palace, he had heard all kinds of scolding words. Not to mention that Tan Tan was a chatterbox who was very good at scolding people. He probably wouldn't take words 100 times more vicious than this to heart. But this sentence made Hu and Ma, who were watching the battle from a building far away, instantly furious. In the territory of the Demon Emperor Heaven, there was actually someone who dared to curse the great elder of the demon race like this? Especially that sentence, it was a great insult to the Demon Empress herself. If this spread out, it would really be a great humiliation to the Demon Emperor Heaven. Many people rushed up with their swords and sabers in hand. As they rushed, they kept on cursing madly. They cursed whatever was unpleasant to hear, whatever was embarrassing to hear. They really did not hold back from cursing to the extreme. For so many years, it wasn't that the 3 great sects had never suffered grievances, but when had they ever suffered such a heavy loss? The essence of the entire sect was almost completely lost in this territory. It was almost the same as the entire sect being finished, with that little bit of strength left. Even if they didn't suffer any losses and returned to the Ink Cloud Heaven, the 3 great sects of the Ink Cloud Heaven would be completely wiped out. They would be reduced to second or even third-rate sects, or even worse. Even if their own inheritance was intact, wanting to make a comeback, it would take at least 1,000,000 years. Such a heavy loss, such heavy casualties, and the bleak fate in front of them and in the future. The survivors of the 3 great sects seemed to have lost their minds. In addition, there was no lack of the mentality of cooking the rabbit and eating the dog. We can't take care of that mysterious assassin, but can't we take care of you 2 small shrimps? Today, he was going to pick on the weak one and vent his anger before anything else. It was under the influence of such a mentality that their words naturally became increasingly unpleasant to hear. Fuck your ancestors, you little bastard. You're courting death. Just you wait, you old man. Wait and see if I won't play you to death. Little bastard. I'll put you in 108 different positions in a while. I'll let you know what it means to live a life worse than death. You'll wish you were dead. Fuck your mother. Don't let me know who you are. Otherwise I'll exterminate your clan. I'll kill your entire family. I'll kill your entire clan. I'll cut the weeds and dig up the roots. I won't leave even the chickens and dogs. I won't just kill your entire family. I'll dig up your ancestral grave and exterminate 18 generations of your ancestors. Countless people fiercely cursed and fiercely rushed forward. The momentum was quite frightening. The great elder of the ghost clan took the lead. His face was full of malevolence. Kill. Chop him into pieces. Dig up his roots again. A clan that can cultivate such a little bastard is certainly not a good thing. I'll exterminate his clan today. I'll exterminate his entire clan. Dig up his roots and break his clan. Seeing such a terrible situation, Tan Tan's heart involuntarily sighed. Brother, I had some intentions of using you before. But I won't leave you today. I'll accompany you to die here. I'm not letting you down. I hope you won't blame me when we walk together. So he stepped forward bravely and shouted, You're just a group of defeated generals. What are you shouting for? Come at me if you have the guts. Don't touch my brother. Someone sneered malevolently. Little bastard, do you think you can still run away? Neither of you can run away. Both of you will die. Yao Ningning's eyes became hot. She was on the verge of tears. This was the first time in her life that she personally felt the legendary warmth of friendship. She smiled and said somewhat chokingly, Brother Tan, don't worry. We won't die. Chapter 21-25. There was no other reason other than the fact that the resources to refine the super heavy pill were too scarce. Thinking about it, with the huge amount of resources in the entire heaven realm, including those given by Zi Xieching, apart from those that couldn't be used in one go, there were only 20 or so super heavy pills. Other than the small portion that Zi Xieching took away, the rest were used by Chu Yang during this period of time. Speaking of which, 20 or so super heavy pills seemed to be quite a lot. But those were the resources of the entire continent. Just as he swallowed it, Chu Yang felt a strong spiritual energy exploding in his body like a raging fire. For a moment, it even caused his heart to feel a little loose. Then, he felt as if his limbs and bones were completely immersed in hot water. All the injured parts of his body slowly started to hurt, itch, and then an indescribable comfortable feeling. Chu Yang finally let go of his worries and relaxed his body. Lying on the bed, he only felt that his eyelids were getting heavier and heavier. In a trance, he actually fell asleep just like that. Just like a baby sleeping in its mother's arms, sleeping peacefully, under the nourishment of the super heavy pill's warm medicinal effects. Chu Yang even completely forgot about the dangers that he might encounter. He forgot about everything around him, and just fell asleep peacefully like that. In his body, it was as if an endless amount of gentle spiritual energy was constantly nourishing his damaged meridians and repairing his battered body. All the poor bodily functions were progressing towards a better direction. Time passed by quietly just like that. And while Mo Yuntian's army was still temporarily stationed outside Lone Bamboo City, they had already started to race against time to negotiate with the officials of Lone Bamboo City, fighting for all the conditions that would be beneficial to them. Previously, Heavenly Emperor Mo Yun, Yuan Tianjia, had already hinted that Demon Emperor Heaven would give them favorable conditions. There would definitely not be a situation where they were obstructed step by step like Eastern Royal Heaven. Mo Yuntian's people naturally had great confidence in this trip. As for the people from the three great sects, Yao Ningning had already ordered them all to be beheaded. Their deaths could be said to be extremely aggrieved. Those few elders were still filled with regret even before they died. If they had known that they would die in such an aggrieved manner, they might as well have directly fought it out with that mysterious enemy. However, in this world, any kind of medicine could be bought, found, and refined. Only the medicine of regret was an exception. Regarding this matter, Mo Yuntian's military expressed an indifferent attitude. Not only did they not ask, it was as if these people did not exist at all. If they died, then they died. Not only did you fail to capture Chu Yang, you even offended Mo Yuntian's grand elder. This is what is called, even death cannot wipe out your crimes. I was already planning to teach you a lesson, but it's better to just stand by and watch. Perhaps the three great sects never thought that their sect would be destroyed in such a way. Their Grand Master died in a daze, and so they became scapegoats. Then, in order to avenge their Grand Master, they offended another Grand Master in a daze. In the end, he was beheaded in a daze. This kind of ending was something that no one could have imagined. Humans, even if they could deceive their own hearts, could they deceive the heavens? Who said that the heavens had no proof? It was just that the military's indifference still surprised and shocked the people of Demon Emperor Heaven. In the eyes of the officials of Demon Emperor Heaven, Even if Mo Yuntian's people did not plead for mercy, they should at least show some sympathy, since they were from the same hometown. Mo Yuntian's vice commander, Yu Lai, said indifferently, "These three great sects have not thought of improving themselves in recent years. Their strength has declined greatly, and they are unruly and undisciplined. This time, they even lost too many lives in this trip to the Eastern Imperial Kingdom. Their crimes cannot be pardoned. Such a way of death is already too easy for them." This sentence made Uncle Hu and Uncle Ma, these two great experts, feel a bit of heartfelt fear in their hearts. Yu Lai's attitude towards the three great sects faintly revealed the extent of Mo Yuntian's anger. Actually, the moment the three great sects' journey to the Eastern Royal Heavens ended with Yuanshu's death, they had already announced their downfall. No matter if they died here or in the ink cloud sky, the final outcome would probably be the same. And this result also showed how much Yuan Tianji doted on Yuanshu Tuesday. From this, it could be imagined what kind of treatment Chu Yang, who directly killed Yuan Shetu, would receive from Yuan Tianji. The only use of the three great sects is to prove one thing, Yu Lai said indifferently. That is, Chu Yang and the others are now in Lone Bamboo City. Uncle Hu said, "I'm afraid this part still needs to be verified. At least until now, there is no evidence to show that Chu Yang really showed up." Yu Lai's face revealed a smile that did not look like a smile. He said, "Brother Hu, don't worry about anything. The purpose of our trip is to capture Chu Yang. We will not implicate anyone else." He paused for a moment and said, "Or something." Uncle Ma's long horse face could not help but twitch. He said, "Vice Commander Yu is too polite." Yu Lai's face also twitched. What Uncle Ma hated the most was outsiders, strutting around in Demon Emperor Heaven. And Yu Lai's arrogant attitude right now was the kind that made him the most unpleasant. And Yu Lai, as the vice commander of Mo Yuntian's army, had a high position and power. But the word vice was his biggest sore point. Usually, his subordinates could call him Commander or Commander Yu. But once he was called Vice Commander Yu, he would immediately fly into a rage. This was not a secret, and almost everyone in the older generation of the Heaven Imperial Court knew about it. And today, Uncle Ma had openly violated his taboo and exposed his scars. There was even a hint of provocation in it. How could Yu Lai not be angry? But right now he was still in Demon Emperor Heaven. He really could not vent his anger. At least, he could not vent it here and now. He could only shift his gaze and pretended to be dignified. He said, "Where is Meng Wuya?" Meng Wuya sighed. He knew that Yu Lai was probably going to vent this nameless anger on him. But the situation was stronger than the person. He had to respond. No matter how unwilling he was, he could only walk out. What orders does Commander have? Meng Wuya's injuries had already recovered by half in this period of time. It did not hinder his normal movements, although he was still not strong enough to fight at full strength. But it was indeed not a big problem. Yu Lai's face was cold. Previously, you mobilized a lot of troops to go on an expedition. In the end, you lost soldiers and generals. It is rare that you can still be so unyielding at this moment. You are indeed the general of wind and thunder under Commander Mu. Hehe. When I call you, do you think I don't have orders? Introduce Chu Yang to me. You are also old rivals with him. Even if you can't control him, you should have some understanding of him. I hope you don't tell me. Not only can I not do anything to him, I don't even know anything about him. The commander in charge of Mo Yuntian's army was the Commander Mu that Yu Lai mentioned just now. And Meng Wuya was the general under Commander Mu. Yu Lai's words clearly had the intention of using this as a pretext to make a fuss. Meng Wuya knew that Yu Lai was provoking him, but the situation was obvious at this moment. He could only swallow his anger and say, "Chu Yang, this young man, is really quite impressive." Yu Lai impatiently interrupted his reply. "I didn't ask you whether he is impressive or not. I only asked you his habits, his temperament, his possible hiding place. You didn't even understand my question. Do you only know how to reply when I ask you one question at a time?" Meng Wuya only felt that he was choking. After a long while, he replied with a red face, "Chu Yang's personality is vengeful. His will is firm and unyielding. Currently, he may be hiding in Lone Bamboo City." This sentence was as good as not saying anything. However, the discord between the two factions in the military had been going on for a long time. Chapter 21-26. We're giving face to Mo Yuntian, but that doesn't mean that we're afraid of Mo Yuntian. If it wasn't for the orders of the Demon Empress, who would care about you? Now you dare to put on airs in front of us. When Chu Yang woke up, he felt relaxed all over. All the injuries from before had disappeared without a trace. Moreover, his cultivation had increased again, and the extent of the increase was not small. The effects of the super heavy pill were indeed extraordinary. It seems that I'm about to reach the peak of the initial stage of heaven being. Chu Yang felt the surging power in his body, and thought to himself. Just as he was feeling it, he suddenly heard the sound of the wind. Someone was coming towards him. Through the sensing of the aura, he could basically confirm that the person had no ill intentions. Chu Yang could still make this judgment. But even so, Chu Yang couldn't help but frown. It was one thing for the person to have no ill intentions, but his identity was another. It didn't mean that everything was fine just because he didn't have any ill intentions. At the moment, the battle was fierce and dangerous. Any careless accident could lead to terrible consequences. Chu Yang didn't dare to be negligent. He secretly released his divine sense to check. Only after confirming who the person was, could he plan his next step. He couldn't help but be startled. He saw that Bai Yu Chun and the others were walking towards him. Although this group of people had changed their appearances, Chu Yang could tell at a glance that it was Bai Yu Chun and the others who were walking towards him. Now, Bai Yu Chun's broken arm had been regenerated. His two arms moved freely like a normal person. Around him, around him, around him, a dozen people who seemed to be unrelated were actually all coming towards him. Chu Yang sighed. They finally couldn't hold it in anymore. Fortunately, he had already wiped out most of the people from the three great sections. Otherwise, such a hot-blooded impulse would only be courting death. If it was just courting death, it would be fine. This hot-blooded impulse could lead to terrible consequences. It could easily lead to the annihilation of the whole army. What Chu Yang didn't know was that while he was in a deep sleep, a small number of people from the three sects had already been killed by Tan Tan. Right now, in Lone Bamboo City, there was no one alive who was familiar with Bai Yu Chun and the others. The wind howled as Bai Yu Chun and the others entered the small courtyard one after another in the most careful manner. After several twists and turns, they entered the small courtyard one after another. The people outside didn't notice this slight, but unusual change. However, when they stood in front of Chu Yang, none of them spoke a word. "I know why you came out." Chu Yang smiled and said, "To be honest, I'm very gratified. But the truth is that you shouldn't have come out." Bai Yu Chen smiled warmly and said respectfully, "Manor Lord, even if we have to face the worst situation, all of us are already mentally prepared. However, we've been holed up like a tortoise from the beginning to the end. Only the Manor Lord is out there fighting and protecting us. This kind of feeling is worse than death." Chu Yang sighed silently. All right. These people were all super elites of their respective sections. They were all proud and lofty people. They were naturally grateful to Chu Yang for protecting them. But the more grateful they were, the more they couldn't allow themselves to reap the fruits of others' labor and not do anything. "I'd rather die standing than live kneeling." Che Shichu's words were almost everyone's thoughts. Chu Yang was silent for a long time. Then he said, "Since that's the case, I'll grant you your wish. Let's go all out together." 30 people stood in front of Chu Yang with their heads held high and their chests puffed out. When they left Ink Cloud Sky and came to Eastern Royal Sky, there were more than 1,000 people. Now only these people were left. Great waves wash away the sand to reveal the gold. Chu Yang took a deep breath and said, "Everyone, after so many battles, all of you are still alive. This is enough to prove that each of you has a few tricks up your sleeves. My request isn't high. Just survive. As long as you can survive, you must do your best to survive. Don't give up easily. This is my only request." Everyone's faces were solemn. Ink Cloud Sky's army has already arrived at Lone Bamboo City. There are at least 30,000 people. If we divide them evenly, each of us will have to deal with at least 1,000 people, or even more. Only then will we have a slight chance of winning. Chu Yang's face was solemn. The situation this time is still the same, but the severity of the situation is even more serious than the enemies we faced when we were escaping. So, I hope that everyone. Chu Yang's gaze slowly swept across everyone's faces. Don't give up easily. Take care of yourselves. Don't give up easily. Manor Lord, take care. 30 people bowed respectfully. If we're lucky enough to survive this time, I hope that we can accompany Manor Lord to roam the Heaven Imperial Court in the future. If we can't avoid death this time, to be able to follow Manor Lord for hundreds of thousands of miles is also a joyous matter with no regrets. 30 people walked out in a single file. Gathering together, they were undoubtedly too big of a target. They still followed the original plan. 3 in a group, each moving separately. Only at the moment when they left the door, everyone was a little reluctant to part. Once they left, it might be an eternal parting. They might never meet again. Going out this time, life and death might be unknown. Or they might be strangers. Perhaps, this was already the last time in their lives that they gathered so neatly. But this feeling only flashed by. Then, everyone walked out with their heads held high. To be able to fight against the army of one side with such a small force, we can be considered as unprecedented. To die without regrets, this life is enough. After a simple deployment and sending everyone off, Chu Yang once again fell into deep thought. Although everyone knew that the people of the 3 big sects were completely annihilated because they offended Demon Emperor Tian Tai, and the hidden danger of their disguises being seen through was eliminated from the root, the situation didn't turn around. In fact, the current situation was even worse than when they faced the 3 big sections. The real strength of Mo Yuntian's army was really too strong, with the manpower on Chu Yang's side. Saying that it was a mantis trying to stop a chariot was already overestimating Chu Yang. The difference was really too great. The difference in strength between the two sides was even greater than when they faced Meng Wuya previously. Facing such a bad situation, how should they make use of the available manpower to achieve the greatest results with the lowest casualties? Chu Yang thought about this question for a long time, but he still didn't have any idea. The manpower available on his side was really too little. Although everyone's cultivation wasn't low, compared to the current situation, they were still too weak. When the strength of both sides was too great, absolute strength would override all strategies, calculations, wisdom, and so on. And the situation that Chu Yang was facing now was basically very close to this situation. If the tribulation space could be reactivated now, Chu Yang could take out a lot of incomplete heavy pills and give a few to each person. Come, eat it when you're seriously injured. Then recover immediately. Then you can go back to battle with your full strength. If it could be like that, even if it was just a matter of attrition, many more enemies could be exhausted to death. As long as there were enough medicines, it wasn't impossible to completely exhaust the enemy. But the problem was that his previous biggest super cheat couldn't be used at all. The tribulation space couldn't be opened. At such a crucial time, it dropped the chain. Chu Yang sighed deeply and prayed in his heart. God, please don't play with me anymore. Please let the tribulation space open quickly. I really can't stand it anymore. Just as he was letting his imagination run wild, there was suddenly a movement outside. Looking at the movement, it was clearly coming towards his side. Chu Yang was really puzzled now. What's going on? They had originally chosen this place for the sake of concealment. But today, there were so many people coming in one after another. It was simply as crowded as a marketplace. It seems that it's definitely not Bai Yuchen's group this time. They wouldn't have come back in such a short time. So, who are the visitors this time? Mo Yuntian's military couldn't have come to the door so quickly. Well, it shouldn't be. The visitors this time also didn't have any murderous aura. They were very peaceful. But I don't seem to know anyone in this city. No, why don't I know anyone? Didn't I bump into someone today? Could it be that it's really, with 2 puffs, 2 people walked in openly from the main entrance? A man with a hoarse voice shouted, Itchy, Itchy, I know you're here. Your handsome junior martial brother Tan Tan has come to visit you. Chu Yang immediately flew into a rage. He leaped forward like a lightning bolt and grabbed a handful of the opposite party's hair without saying anything. Then he started to rain punches and kicks on the opposite party's head. I'll make you feel itchy, ah. I'll make you itchy. You scoundrel. You damned bastard. Spare you. Dream on. Today, I'll clean up the sect on behalf of my master. I'll beat you to death, you bastard. Chu Yang's fists were like heavy hammers, and his feet were like meteors. He was merciless. The gale gradually turned into a storm and a hurricane. Motherfucker, from the heaven-level continent to the heaven-level imperial court, and across 2 worlds. This is the first brother I've met. How can I vent my excitement if I don't beat him up to my heart's content? Just now the battle wasn't the right place or the right time. I was still regretting it. I didn't expect you to deliver yourself to me. How can I not take it? The heavens have mercy on you. Finally, I have a comfortable partner. After beating him up for a long time, Tan Tan seemed to have finally lost his patience. You're still beating me? It's about time. You bastard, if you continue to beat me, I'll fight back. I'll really fight back. Motherfucker, you're still beating me. Watch my fist. Bang bang bang, puff puff puff. Chapter 21-27. The 2 of them exchanged punches and kicks without dodging at all. Punches to the face, kicks to the buttocks. In an instant, 2 freshly baked pig heads appeared in the world. Yao Ningning at the side was sweating profusely as he watched. His eyebrows were twitching wildly. The only thing he felt was that his eyeballs seemed to have popped out of their sockets. At this moment, they had already fallen to the ground and broken into 8 pieces. What is this situation? Oh my mother! This is the legendary reunion of fellow disciples. This greeting gift is too explosive, too fucking shocking. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! After a long while, the 2 of them sat on the ground with bruised noses and swollen faces, gasping for breath. They looked at each other's brand new appearance, and couldn't help but laugh. That kind of joy that almost exploded from the bottom of their hearts, after the reunion, still made the 2 of them have an impulse to grab each other and beat them up again. This kind of emotion was really like an old wine that had been settled for a long time, but had already fermented. It was very heartwarming, but it also made their hearts explode with joy. They were so happy that they felt a little sad. I don't know if you have this kind of feeling when you suddenly reunite with a close classmate and comrade in arms who haven't seen each other for many years. Come here. Tan Tan waved his hand with a swollen face. Yao Ningning had a fawning smile on his face. He eagerly came over like a lackey. Tan Tan had a condescending look on his face, as if he was educating a younger brother. This is my martial brother. My martial brother is the kind of truly amazing person. Whether it's killing, fighting, or dealing with people, he's the best of the best. My martial brother can devise strategies in a tent and decide victory from 1,000 miles away. My martial brother can prosper a country with a word. His words can destroy a country. My martial brother can establish a country in peace. His martial arts can pacify the world. My martial brother is Kai Fenglu. His martial arts are excellent. My martial brother has the talent to conquer the world. He can support the power of the universe. As he spoke, Yao Ningning kept nodding with a face full of worship. Even someone as thick-skinned as Chu Yang felt a little embarrassed. Are you talking about me? It should be. Most of it was close to the truth. It was just a little exaggerated. She was intoxicated by it when she suddenly heard Tan Tan change the topic. He had a flaunting look on his face. It can be said that my senior brother is omnipotent. Whether it's picking up girls or other things like theft, robbery, ambushing, extortion, he's also a top-notch person. Just like gambling, he's also a top-notch person. Yao Ningning's eyes lit up, and her Adam's apple trembled in excitement. Idol? What an idol! Chu Yang's face darkened. Are you praising me? Tan Tan continued to talk non-stop. Didn't you say that you crazily chased after that girl? But you didn't manage to catch her? I'm not an expert in this field, but my senior brother is an expert in this field. Remember to sincerely ask my senior brother for guidance later. Let me tell you, the wives my senior brother has found are all outstanding beauties. They're devastatingly beautiful. They're all extremely intelligent. They're all of noble status and outstanding abilities. All of them? Yao Ningning looked even more worshipful. How many wives do you have? Tan Tan turned and asked Chu Yang. Senior brother, How many wives do you have now? Do you have any more? Chu Yang was speechless when he heard that. Get lost. You better get the fuck out of my sight, as far as the horizon is. I get annoyed just looking at you. Tan Tan shrunk his neck and turned to Yao Ningning. Get lost. Why are you asking so many questions? Can't you see that you've annoyed my senior brother with your questions? Yes. Yao Ningning nodded repeatedly. She looked at Chu Yang with even more worship. From head to toe. It came from the bottom of her heart. He was indeed worthy of being her idol. His temper was too much of a character, too manly too. I say, who is this? Chu Yang asked doubtfully. Chu Yang combined the previous information and vaguely guessed who the stranger in front of him might be. But this guess was too illogical. In the end, he still asked this question. Tan Tan kicked Yao Ningning's butt. Why aren't you replying? My senior brother is asking you a question. Idol. Boss. Aye. Yao Ningning's words were incoherent. What? My name is Yao Ningning. What? I really admire you. Yao Ningning? You said you're called Yao Ningning? You're really Yao Ningning. Chu Yang was really shocked when he heard that. Although he had vaguely guessed it before, it still gave Chu Yang a big shock when it was confirmed in front of him. Demons were a race. In the land of the demon race, the word demon was undoubtedly extremely noble. Only the royal family of the demon race had the right to use the surname demon in front of their names. Chu Yang's expression remained unchanged, but his heart skipped a beat. This guy with a face full of idiocy, clothes out of place, and a lackey who was nodding his head and bowing his head desperately to curry favor, was actually a member of the royal family of the demon race? There were indeed all kinds of strange things in the world. Tan Tan said with an indifferent face. Yao Ningning. I heard that he was the only son of the demon emperor, Heaven's demon empress. Chu Yang made a sound of surprise. His face was still as calm as an ancient well, but in his heart, he felt as if the whole universe had exploded in front of his eyes. This wasn't a joke, right? The demon emperor. He was actually taken in as a follower by Tan Tan? Oh my god. Yao Ningning said with a shy face. Actually, I'm still not very sensible. I've been taught by Big Brother Tan Tan. Chu Yang could no longer maintain his composure. The corner of his mouth finally couldn't help but twitch. He suddenly realized that after he rushed to the Heaven Palace, all his grievances were actually with the emperors. There were too many people he had befriended, too many people he had killed, too many people he knew now, and there was even this Tai Yuntian, who had ulterior motives. He had to admit that his luck seemed to be pretty good, even though it wasn't luck. Tan Tan said bluntly, "What's wrong with that? We brothers relied on our own abilities to make a living in the martial world. We didn't count on his motherfucking power. It doesn't matter if he's a demon emperor or a demon commoner. Even if he's trash, as long as we acknowledge him, isn't it all the same? Nothing more than that. The demon emperor is also nothing more than that." Chu Yang's heart suddenly became clear. He couldn't help but laugh. He had been enlightened by Tan Tan today. His words went straight to the core of the problem. Yes, he wasn't as open-minded as Tan Tan. In fact, Yao Ningning's identity might be really shocking and explosive, but so what? As long as he didn't intend to borrow power from the other party, it really didn't matter what the other party's identity was. Friendship was valued in understanding. Did it have to be based on family background first? Ever since Chu Yang was born, he had been a very free and easy person. He had never cared too much about the identity of those around him. For example, when he had just made his debut, he hadn't been famous, but he still commanded the wind and the clouds. When facing the generals of Iron Cloud, the princes and the monarchs, he spoke without restraint. He always did things according to his heart. Today's performance was mainly because Chu Yang had been living too bitterly during this period of time. On the surface, it looked like he was killing here and there with his sword, and no one could stop him. But almost all of his achievements were based on surprise attacks. And it was a special tactic where he would retreat unscathed if he failed to hit. If it was a real head-on confrontation, even if he had 10 lives now, he would have been finished long ago. There was no need for a head-on confrontation. If the other party had another person like the Great Elder of Iron Sword Sect, and fought with all his strength, A certain king of hell would probably have gone to meet the real king of hell. Now, it was a delicate juncture where Mo Yuntian's army was pressing on the border. Chu Yang was even more pressured. When he suddenly heard Yao Ningning's identity, the first thing he thought of was that. But at this moment, he was reminded by Tan Tan's words. He couldn't help but be enlightened. Once the knot in his heart was untied, the three of them chatted and talked. Instantly, they were boundlessly happy. Chu Yang's profound knowledge, the experience of 2 lifetimes, the many sceneries he had experienced along the way, and his understanding of the dangers of Jianghu. Every time he talked about it, Yao Ningming's eyes lit up. His level of worship increased by another level. Slowly, he actually had a kind of if I could roam Jianghu like this and experience such a colorful life, how good would that be? This feeling rose up. Let me tell you another big secret. My senior martial brother is the person who killed Mo Yuntian. Tan Tan sat cross-legged and said slowly. Really? Yao Ningming wasn't surprised. Instead, he was full of excitement. Wow! Too awesome! Big brother, you're really too fierce. Mo Yuntian, your status seems to be about the same as mine. Doesn't that mean that even if it's me, as long as Big Brother doesn't like me, you can kill me whenever you want? At this point he suddenly worshipped even more. It was as if he wanted to worship Chu Yang. Chu Yang coughed twice. He was speechless in his heart. Kill as I wish. You think too highly of me. Do you really think that I'm retarded? That I would kill you grand cliques for fun? Motherfucker, if it wasn't for that fucking Yuan Shed of forcing me into a corner, would I have killed him? That day, my initial plan wasn't to kill him. I wanted to perish together with him. Did you really think that it was that fun? Besides, that was the grand clique of a world. Was it really that easy to kill him? I didn't even see the grand clique. But I killed a grand clique who was chased like a stray dog. There were actually people who worshipped this matter so much. It was really the biggest joke in the world. This demon emperor, heaven seemed to be a little too weird, right? I've decided. I must follow Big Brother and Big Brother to roam Jianghu together. Yao Ningming made a solemn vow. He beamed with joy. It's really too fun. Even Mo Yuntian's grand clique was killed. It's really too exciting. Just thinking about it makes me excited. Chu Yang was speechless. It seemed that even Tan Tan was a little shocked at this time. As they talked, they became even more familiar with each other. Yao Ningming's face was full of enthusiasm as he took out food and drinks from the space ring. Wine, meat, vegetables, everything that one could think of was there. Moreover, they were all the best delicacies in Demon Emperor Heaven. Tan Tan was extremely envious when he saw this. His heart was extremely unbalanced. Suddenly, he knocked on Yao Ningming's head. Fuck. You actually collected so many delicious things when you were young. Why didn't you take them out when you were with me? Now that you see my senior brother, it's like you see your own father. Now that you have Big Brother, you don't remember me, your big brother, do you? Yesterday, the second update. Chapter 21-28. Yao Ningming rubbed his head and looked wronged. Big brother, listen to me. I just remembered. There are too many things in my ring. How can I remember so many? You don't know. The last time I was looking for something, it took me 3 days to find it. It was really too big and too messy. Chu Yang and Tan Tan fainted at the same time. Could this be a reason? There were too many things in it. Fortunately, we weren't robbers. If we were robbers, we would have really met a super cooperative robber this time. Wouldn't that be too much? As for now, no, I've never heard of a big brother robbing a little brother's things, especially such a lackey little brother's things. Although Chu Yang and Tan Tan were famous for being thick-skinned, they really couldn't do such a despicable thing. The three drank, ate, and chatted. They were really happy without limits. Yao Ningming obviously had the intention to use the wine to get some words out of him. Big brother, since you are flirting with girls, you must teach little brother a few high-level moves of Sansho. Chu Yang laughed and patted his chest. You can rest assured about this. Isn't it just chasing a girl? I'll give you an idea later. I believe it can be easily done. However, this kind of thing between a man and a woman, the most important thing is that both parties are willing. If the girl isn't willing no matter what, then it's meaningless, isn't it? Yao Ningming slapped her thigh and said, Big brother, What you said is so right. It makes so much sense. Although the girl I like is not bad, if I use force, she won't be able to resist. The problem is that if I use force, it will be really boring. Forcefully wrung melons won't be sweet. That's right. Chu Yang agreed and said, that's the reason. Before, I always felt that you were unreliable. Now you're more and more pleasing to the eye. Yao Ningning got praised and became more and more exultant. He only felt that he had met a bosom friend, and was happy for life. Tan Tan said disdainfully from the side, Little Yao, do you know what the highest level of picking up girls is? Yao Ningning asked modestly, what is it? Big brother, please enlighten me. The highest level of courting a girl is very simple and clear. And that is to be courted by a girl. Tan Tan raised his nose to the sky. My senior brother's many wives are courted by him. Do you understand? In other words, my senior martial brother is just waiting. Look, you're only chasing one person. And you're actually in such a terrible fix, so miserable. I truly feel sorry for you. Yao Ningning looked at Chu Yang with even more reverence in his eyes. Big brother, you. Chu Yang crossed his legs. Haha. I'm not as exaggerated as little Tan said. I was ignorant at first, and didn't think about the feelings between men and women. Humph. Therefore one blew, one helped, and one listened attentively with shining eyes. Not a single strand of hair was out of place. They are completely unaware that they are now in the midst of an unprecedented crisis. A long while passed. Then Tan Tan finally asked, Senior brother, where is that happy little girl Xie Danfeng? He had definitely been holding this question in his heart for a long time. When he saw Chu Yang here, but didn't see Xie Danfeng, Tai Butian, and the others, Tan Tan had a bad feeling. He also knew that Chu Yang was in a bad situation, and was being hunted down. So Tan Tan didn't dare to ask. Until now he couldn't help but ask. Chu Yang smiled faintly. You think I lost your wife? Tan Tan saw Chu Yang's expression, and immediately felt relieved. He said happily, where is that little girl? Damn, she found such a handsome man as her husband. Is she so happy that she's embarrassed to come out? Ugh. Yao Ningning retched. Under Tan Tan's murderous gaze, he explained dryly. No, it's not your words, it's because I drank a little too much. Chu Yang laughed. They are practicing in a safe place. You will see her soon. Chu Yang said, she's absolutely unharmed. Then he suddenly became angry. You bastards, you just left your wife here with me. Do you know what kind of life I've been living? Eastern Royal Sky dreamlike veranda. When Mo Qingwu woke up, she felt that her cultivation had increased a little. She couldn't help but feel gratified. She thought to herself, the elixirs in our sex collection are really amazing. I didn't expect that after the pain yesterday, I would advance 2 levels after completely digesting them today. It's really amazing. Only by eating bitterly can one rise above others. This is really a famous saying. She felt a little happy, and instinctively touched her pocket. But when she touched it, she felt empty. She couldn't help but be shocked. Where's the wind fox? The wind fox had been obediently staying at his place for a long time. Why did it disappear today? She felt that the wind fox in her pocket was gone, and there was only a note left. She took it out, and saw that there was a young and crooked handwriting on it. It seemed to have been scratched out with a claw. Master, I want to go to the demon race to take a look. I've improved too quickly during this period. The follow-up technique is gone in the inheritance. I'll go back and look for it. Don't worry, once I find it, I'll come back immediately. Mo Qingwu felt lost. Did the wind fox go to the demon race? She's alone. How can she find it? How can she be so impulsive? On the main road, a young girl in white was moving. Her figure was like a willow branch swaying in the wind. She floated forward. Her face was full of longing. Actually, I really can't bear to leave. Master is like an elder sister to me. When I find the inheritance, I'll quickly go back. I've only left for a short while, and I can't bear to leave. I really want to go back immediately. Sigh, I'm really useless. Her expression was particularly conflicted, but her speed didn't slow down. The Heaven Imperial Court is not like other places. With my current cultivation, I can't be of much help. It's more important to hurry up and find the inheritance. When the time comes, I'll come back and help master. In another world far away, Tribulation's brain, Mo Tianji, sat on the throne. He looked down at the 10 leaders, 5 hall masters and 70 branch leaders. They were all thinking about something. Behind him, 2 other people stood quietly. These were Mo Tianji's 2 personal bodyguards. Ever since Mo Tianji had rushed to the heavenly imperial court, he didn't have any spare time to indulge in the luxury of sleeping. He had to survive, develop, escape, practice martial arts, enrich his manpower and plan. All of these required a lot of time to carry out. Eating and sleeping were normal human behaviors. However, it seemed that he really couldn't take care of them. Fortunately, these efforts still paid off. Now, in Mo Tianji's opinion, his power in the Heaven Imperial Court was finally beginning to take shape. Now, Mo Tianji's Heavenly Armament Pavilion had grown to the scale of tens of thousands of people. Moreover, they were all martial artists. Although there weren't any particularly high-level experts, there weren't any mediocre people. If all of them gathered together, they could already be considered a powerful force. Especially when Mo Tianji used his master of calculation and manipulation to guide many experts. Because of this, he recruited many experts who were sincerely convinced by Mo Tianji and sincerely attached themselves to him. This force was now growing stronger and stronger. It didn't need much time. The current Heavenly Armament Pavilion had already become a force that couldn't be ignored. Even if it wasn't enough to challenge the super sects of the various heavens, it might still have the power to fight against ordinary sections. In view of this, Mo Tianji considered whether to change the Heavenly Armament Pavilion. Although from the beginning, Mo Tianji established the Heavenly Armament Pavilion by robbing and relying on robbing, Mo Tianji had always consciously cultivated something. Now it was finally close to the time of maturity. From now on, we will enter other industries, Mo Tianji said lightly. Except for a few secret people who need to continue robbing for the daily needs of the Heavenly Armament Pavilion, the others will start to collect relevant information according to the arrangements I made before. In the heavens and the earth, in the 3 sects, any information must be collected. Everyone looked at Mo Tianji with some surprise. They didn't understand why he suddenly changed the direction of development. The current development situation was clearly very ideal. There were no obstacles. Was there a need to suddenly change the direction of development? Especially in a direction that they had never dabbled in before. The gains didn't make up for the losses. However, ever since Mo Tianji had founded the Heavenly Armament Pavilion, he had been able to predict things like a god. He had never made any mistakes. In everyone's eyes, he was an omniscient and wise prophet. Was this the first time he had met with an accident? In the current situation, we use robbing to develop further. Perhaps the efficiency will be higher, but the danger will also increase. Previously, our strength was still shallow. Most of the targets of robbing were third-rate and last-rate forces. At most, we would only target second-rate forces. Now that our strength has increased greatly, if we still target second-rate forces, the gains will not make up for the losses. The benefits will be limited, but if we rashly target first-rate forces, or even super first-rate forces, not only will we not have enough strength, but we may also attract a strong backlash. If we are not careful, we may be wiped out by a super force, Mo Tianji said. On the other hand, if we give up most of our robbing operations and concentrate on building our own information network, as long as we have enough and accurate information, our development will undoubtedly be faster. After all, information is what the people of Jiang who need the most. The big forces, and even the government need it the most. We won't have to worry about a lack of buyers. Once our Heavenly Armament Pavilion's name is recognized by the whole Jiang, the authenticity, reliability, and speed of our information will be confirmed. Then, our grandchildren will not be able to eat and drink. Today, I sent a screenshot of Prestige to the game company. They were immediately stunned. They were all against Jun Moxia's image. So I said very confidently, "This is not good. We will do it again." Chapter 21-29. Mo Tianji could only use this method to mobilize the enthusiasm of the people. An intelligence empire was not something that could be established in a short period of time. Under normal circumstances, a qualified intelligence organization would require the efforts of several generations, countless years of tempering, and the support of a huge amount of resources and manpower. It was simply an armchair strategist. It was impractical. However, Mo Tianji wanted to work hard in this direction. He wanted to do all of this in the shortest time possible. As long as he had the most accurate and timely information, it would be equivalent to controlling the world to a large extent. Mo Tianji had always had a vision. The strength of the brothers would be unrivaled in the world. They would be able to conquer the world. They would be in charge of the intelligence network throughout Jianghu. With the cooperation of both sides, they would be able to bring out the best in each other. They would be successful in every endeavor. Everyone became excited when they heard Mo Tianji's words. Most of the people who could become leaders, hall leaders, and branch leaders were not stupid. Whether Mo Tianji's words were reasonable or not, they were naturally able to distinguish clearly. Mo Tianji's words were undoubtedly very reasonable. Robbery was a business without any capital. It was easy to make money. However, the danger behind it was also relatively high, especially when facing those powerful forces. Now that the leader had a new way of development, why not try it out? Moreover, during this period of time, everyone was really impressed by Boss Mo's intelligence. As long as Boss Missouri decided on something, they would definitely not go wrong by following it. There was also another layer. If they could really wash away their previous background and use legal means to make money, it would definitely be better than everyone bearing the name of a bandit. Robbery was not a career that could last a lifetime. Boss, we all understand what you're thinking. That's a good idea. But Qianji Pavilion can be said to be the best in the field of intelligence. Their intelligence network is spread all over the world. The various rankings they compile are extremely authoritative. They have a list of all the people in Jianghu, as well as all the new information. They have been recognized by everyone for tens of thousands of years, and their prestige is unparalleled. If everyone really wants to buy information, they will definitely go there. But why would they buy from us? Someone raised an objection. This objection was very sharp. However, it was indeed a problem that needed to be considered and solved. Mo Tianji faintly smiled. The Thousand Secrets Pavilion has enjoyed a great reputation for many years. Naturally, it is very powerful. However, their operating model may not be without loopholes. As long as we have the heart to do it, we will have to snatch food from their mouths first. Our foundation is shallow, so we will not be able to compete with them in the beginning. Thus, we still need some people to rob to maintain our normal livelihood. However, Qianji Pavilion is not invincible. The most important point is that we have a unique advantage. Qianji Pavilion has always sold information, but they have never done a further analysis of the information they have collected. In this point, they are far inferior to us. This is a fundamental difference, and it is enough to reverse the outcome of the battle between us and Qianji Pavilion. Mo Tianji's eyes flashed with absolute confidence. In this field, there might not be anyone in this world who could compare to Mo Tianji. Everyone knew that Mo Tianji was capable of this, so their confidence was greatly boosted. So they agreed and split up to do their work. Perhaps at this moment, no one would have thought that in such a short period of time in the future, a colossus would suddenly rise up in this heaven imperial court. It came quietly, but in a short period of time, it rose up with great momentum. The information of Heavenly Armament Pavilion had truly swept the world. It was unique. It had truly become a legend of the Heaven Imperial Court. On the other side, the vast sword energy in the sky soared into the sky. Gu Duxing had already sheathed his sword. Without Chu Yang to lead him, Gu Duxing could only grope his way forward. However, it was this groping alone that allowed his sword of selflessness to transform into a true form. Time and time again, Gu Duxing grew up very quickly. The aura on his body became more and more cold, and he gave people the feeling that he was more and more like a sword. A divine sword. It was as if even a single strand of hair was mixed with an unstoppable and unrivaled sword aura. I have finally reached the peak of saint level, Gu Duxing muttered. Even I did not think that I would improve to this extent. I believe that there is a high chance that boss has already been left behind by me. However, I still cannot be careless. Anything can happen to boss. I need to continue to rush up. If I am too complacent and lose my energy, when we meet again in the future, I will find out that I am actually at the bottom. That would be really embarrassing. However, this heavenly sword god fruit is truly miraculous. It actually allowed my cultivation and sword chi to advance by leaps and bounds. Even my sword intent has been tempered. However, I still need to familiarize myself with it. After all, it was something that was forcefully raised by external forces. Only by repeatedly tempering it can it be completely used by me, allowing me to do as I please and be successful in every endeavor. Right now, I am afraid that I will not be able to improve my cultivation in a short period of time. From now on, I will not be able to just build a cart behind closed doors. Looks like I need to go out and explore, temper my state of mind, and stabilize my foundation, Gu Duxing muttered. It is just that it is a pity to let go of this foundation just like that. After a long time, he finally made a decision. All of you stay here and cultivate well. Continue to develop and grow. My cultivation is not stable now. I need to go out and experience the martial world for a while. I believe that I will return soon. Gu Duxing instructed. No one objected. Gu Duxing's clothes were as white as snow. Standing there, it was as if he had brought along an isolated snow mountain. It made people feel a bone-chilling coldness. No one dared to question the words of this boss. In this place, Gu Duxing's words were the heavens. His words were law, and his orders were strictly enforced. After giving his instructions, Gu Duxing, dressed in white, set off on his journey without looking back. The moment he went out, his sword energy rose with the wind and shot straight up into the sky. Perhaps no one knew about it yet, nor did they feel anything. However, a peerless swordsman had already started on a journey that shook the world from here. The moment he went out, he still did not know what he would encounter. But after he went out, he saw something that was absolutely unbearable. Just when Gu Duxing was less than 500 miles away from his heavenly armament pavilion, he suddenly saw thick smoke billowing in front of him. In a moment of curiosity, he sped up to check it out. He saw a group of people massacring a small sect. Gu Duxing looked on coldly. Before he figured out the cause and effect of the matter, he did not want to act rashly. He even wanted to leave. But a sentence from the thick smoke made Gu Duxing change his mind. He stopped his footsteps that were already prepared to leave. Thick smoke billowed, and someone cried out in grief and indignation. If you steal the treasure, then you steal it. If you kill the people, then you kill them. But these women, I beg you, please give them a quick death. I beg you. Kill them. Kill them. Kill them. Kill them. Kill them. Don't humiliate them anymore. I beg you. This voice was heart-wrenching. One could imagine that the person who said this was already in extreme grief and despair. He actually knelt down and begged the enemy who destroyed his sect. Gu Duxing stopped in his tracks. One hand involuntarily grasped the hilt of his sword. A young voice laughed wildly. You old bastard. You refused a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Now do you know how powerful I am? Young master took a fancy to your things. That is your fortune. You actually dared to not hand them over. Now you know to beg me? Unfortunately, it's too late. Damn old thing. Young master will let you watch your family and your granddaughter be played by me. Played to death. Played to death. What can you do? Ha ha ha. What can you do? Ha 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 ha. Gu Duxing's pair of sword-like eyebrows suddenly rose. There is actually such a bastard. Almost without any further thought, a brazen sword light suddenly swept across the sky like a shocking rainbow, and directly entered the billowing thick smoke. Within the thick smoke, corpses were strewn all over the place. An old man was kneeling on the ground, constantly kowtowing and begging. His forehead was dripping with blood. Let them go. Kill them. I beg you. I beg you. In front of him, there were 7 or 8 young women. Other than them, a group of strong men had long been lying on the ground. And those young women were all disheveled. Their faces were filled with grief, indignation, and despair. In front, there were dozens of black-clothed men holding swords and sabers. A young man stood at the front. His face was strange and evil. He was slowly tearing open a woman's lapel, revealing her delicate skin. He laughed and said, "Old bastard, do you see it? Do you see it clearly? This is your most beloved granddaughter, right? Ha ha ha. Watch carefully, how do I play with her? Look carefully. Look carefully. She won't die. She will be very happy." That old man's whole body trembled. He spat out a mouthful of blood. He struggled as if he wanted to fight with his life. But his injuries were too serious. He couldn't stand up. That young man saw this situation and laughed even more happily. He became more and more complacent. Right at this moment, a sword light shot over like a bolt of lightning. Bastard! Other than these two words, Gu Duxing didn't want to say anything else. No matter who was right or wrong, this young man's actions had already touched Gu Duxing's bottom line. He must be killed. He must die. The magnificent sword light was like the Milky Way pouring down, mighty and mighty. That young man who was laughing wildly was almost defenseless. He suddenly felt a chill on his neck. Then he felt as if he was flying. Then, he was horrified to find that there was a very familiar body below. But it just happened that there was no head. Blood was rushing out from the neck. That's me? But His thoughts stopped here, and his life returned to the netherworld. Chapter 2130. Who is it? Stop. Bastard. Do you know who we are? In an indescribable chaos, Gu Duxing had already fallen into the crowd with his sword. His sword flashed in the air, and with a loud bang, 7 or 8 people had already fallen under his sword. His face was cold, and his lips were pursed. His face was cold and full of killing intent. At this moment, those people finally realized what was going on. One by one, they pulled out their swords to defend themselves. Gu Duxing immediately felt the pressure increase rapidly. Even with his current peak saint-level cultivation, he still felt like he was facing a strong enemy. In other words, these people in front of him were not simple. At least, their strength was not simple. He couldn't help but feel a little surprised. He didn't expect that such a scoundrel would bring so many experts with him. But how could Gu Duxing care about so much at this moment? Raising his invincible might, he brandished his sword and unleashed the full power of the solitary unruffled sword art. With him around, he was invincible. Of the 40 to 50 people in front of him, 30 to 40 had already been killed by him. The others saw that something was wrong and fled in all directions. Gu Duxing's killing intent was blazing. How could he let them escape? He shouted, "A bunch of scum still want to escape? All of you die." He chased after them with his sword, and one by one, the enemies died under his sword. But there was still one person who fled, rolling and crawling, and fell down the cliff in a panic. Although Gu Duxing wanted to confirm whether he was dead or alive, the cliff was bottomless. He guessed that it would be difficult for that person to survive, so he gave up. When Gu Duxing turned around, he saw that the old man had already been helped up. He was leading 7 or 8 women, and they were kneeling down in front of him. Gu Duxing sighed. "All of you get up. Find another place, and spend the rest of your lives well. There should be half of your life savings in here. I don't think it will be too difficult." He shook his head and turned around to leave. "Benefactor, please wait," the old man called out. Gu Duxing walked along the mountain path with a calm expression. When he was eating, he took out a black wooden box from his clothes. This was the reward that the old man gave him. "Benefactor, it was because of this that my entire family was exterminated. Treasures can only be obtained by the virtuous. This old man is not virtuous. Treasures can only be obtained by the virtuous. This old man has caused great trouble. I hope that benefactor will accept it. This old man and his entire family will forever be grateful." Gu Duxing looked at the black wooden box in his hand. He opened it and saw a jade slip inside. He tried to use his cultivation to touch it, but there was no reaction. In a moment of excitement, he used his own sword chi to activate it. Suddenly the jade slip shone brightly. A wisp of sword energy shot out from the jade scroll, and into Gu Duxing's forehead. Gu Duxing instantly felt that the world was spinning, and he actually tripped and fell. After a long time, he digested the huge amount of information from the jade slip, and his eyes lit up. Cloudy Heaven Sword Chi? Gu Duxing sped all the way, but when he was 800 miles away, he was intercepted again. The reason for the attack was very simple and pure. It was because he saw injustice and drew his sword to kill. And the person that Gu Duxing killed was coincidentally the only son of an amazing big shot. After a bloody battle, Gu Duxing was covered in blood. He rushed out of the encirclement and fled. Gu Duxing, the master of Heavenly Armament Pavilion, suddenly went from being surrounded by people to fleeing for thousands of miles. When he started to flee, he even thought of Chu Yang. As expected of brothers, even their encounters are similar. This time, it seems like we are brothers in the same boat. As Gu Duxing fled, he mocked himself. Big brother killed Mo Yin Tian Tai and is being hunted down. Although the one I killed here is not as famous as the one big brother killed, he is not a simple character either. The opponent's strength is extremely high. I can't fight against him. I can only follow big brother's example and escape. The enemy behind him was like a maggot in his bones. Gu Duxing did not dare to be careless. He fought and fled like this. No one knew that a peerless swordsman was rapidly growing in this place, where he had to flee for his life. Perhaps when Gu Duxing turned around again and killed that terrifying enemy, it would be the moment when he shocked the world with his sword. In another direction, in another world. It seemed like it was not a coincidence, but a coincidence. In any case, Dong Wuxiang was also fleeing in a sorry state right now, because his Heavenly Armament Pavilion had been too unbridled in their actions. They had finally provoked a big trouble. They were besieged by the combined forces of the Heavenly Armament Pavilion and two major sections. The force of thousands of people vanished overnight, completely uprooted. Dong Wuxiang escaped with his life. He rushed all the way. Finally, when he could not hold on any longer, he jumped down a cliff. Below the cliff was the Mist River. Dong Wuxiang also got a chance to catch his breath. It seemed that cliffs and precipices were really not dangerous places to take people's lives. Very few people who fell down were really finished. In the cold river water, Dong Wuxiang's face was full of anger. With the black saber in his hand, Dong Wuxiang looked up to the sky and shouted, "Today's enmity. I, Dong Wuxiang, swear to the heavens that I will take revenge at all costs. If I violate this oath, may the heavens and earth destroy me." This kind of deep hatred for the first time rose in Dong Wuxiang's heroic heart and took root. And in the same world, there was another force of Heavenly Armament Pavilion coming towards Dong Wuxiang. The name of this Heavenly Armament Pavilion was Black Devil. The person in charge was Mo Layer. It was because of this encirclement that Mo Layer finally found out about Dong Wuxiang's specific whereabouts. She rushed over as fast as a spark, but was still a step too late. Until a few days later, when she finally found Dong Wuxiang, because Dong Wuxiang was seriously injured and had fought many fierce battles consecutively. His injuries were even more serious. He was almost unrecognizable. Mo Layer led her troops to attack, snatched Dong Wuxiang and left. In this world, the husband and wife fought and killed along the way. Blood filled the sky along the way. Mo Layer's subordinates were constantly sacrificed. The hearts of the two, who had always valued friendship, were bleeding. But in the face of such a strong enemy, there was nothing they could do. They could only continue to flee. But the seed of hatred was buried deeper and deeper. No one knew that the reason why the Heaven Imperial Court became the #1 assassin organization was because of this pursuit. The future Wind Cloud Saber Emperor also truly mastered his butcher's saber during this escape. With a ruthless heart for revenge, the other brothers also had their own encounters. It seemed as if there had been a chain reaction after Chu Yang's incident. Everyone's originally smooth sailing days had come to an end at the same time. Everyone suddenly fell into a perilous situation. Everyone was in a life or death situation. No matter when they were fighting or fleeing, they were all thinking, if my brothers were by my side at this moment, who would dare to bully me? If everyone gathered together at this moment, I wonder how they are now. Are they well? Every time they fell into a desperate situation, every time they were heavily surrounded and seriously injured, there was only one thing that kept them going. I haven't reunited with my brothers. We haven't reunited. We haven't seen each other. I can't die. Boss once said that we must all stand at the peak. I must live on. I must live on. Together with my brothers, I must reach the peak that we agreed on. Among these people, GMO and Luo Kadi were the two who suffered the most. Besides their own personalities, it was also because of their fearless style. They would offend even if they had no enmity with them, not to mention those who had enmity with them. The two of them were almost ganged up on in their own worlds. But it was in such an iron-blooded Jianghu that these two iron-blooded men grew up. They shed their previous immaturity and recklessness, and walked through blood and fire. The encounters of the brothers were not a big deal in their own worlds. But when they acted together, they set off a storm together. If someone who was familiar with them could sort out all these things, they would realize that the storm in the Heaven Imperial Court was escalating because of these people. Furthermore, it could be seen that these people were constantly growing stronger and stronger in this place, where the winds and clouds were constantly changing. Among the brothers, another one worth mentioning was Xie Danqiong. The world where this noble was at was Ink Cloud Sky. Now that Ink Cloud Sky was in turmoil, Xie Danqiong also added a lot of new colors to this storm. After hearing that Ink Cloud Sky Emperor's army went out to encircle and annihilate Chu Yang, after hearing that the three big sects sent people to capture Chu Yang regardless of right and wrong, Xie Danqiong exploded. Brilliant viburnum flowers bloomed in Iron Sword Sect almost at the first moment. Starting from Iron Sword Sect, Xie Danqiong started to endlessly harass and attack. The three big sects' mountain gates were burned continuously, and their disciples were robbed and killed continuously. Not only the three big sects, but also Ink Cloud Sky's officials. Or it could be said that they were the people that Xie Danqiong hated the most. There were constantly official warehouses being robbed, official stations and places being burned. Xie Danqiong had always been meticulous in his thinking. He had always planned before acting. He rarely acted excessively. He had almost never acted so crazily. However, at this time, Xie Danqiong led the Heavenly Armament Pavilion that he had founded, and launched an unscrupulous revenge in Moyintian. Once a very calm person went crazy, how much energy could he explode? Just as big as Xie Danqiong. For a moment, the area where Xie Danqiong was at suddenly sunk into an unprecedentedly terrifying atmosphere. The military, officials, and people from the three big sects did not know at all. They did not understand what kind of craziness this newly promoted little fellow had. But at the same time, they realized another point. If this bastard doesn't die, there will never be a day of peace. Therefore, the top forces of Ink Cloud Sky started a large-scale encirclement and annihilation operation. Xie Danqiong did not show any weakness towards this. While he was hiding and fleeing, he still did not forget to counterattack anytime, and anywhere destruction, ambush, arson, murder. He was using all his power to do something that made some big shots think was very laughable. I'll drag the power here, so that the boss side can reduce some pressure relatively. %. Chapter 2131. How great was the power of heaven and earth. No matter how good Xie Danqiong was, the attention he attracted was not even 1/1000th of Mo Yuntian's overall strength. In fact, it was not even 1/10,000th. However, Xie Danqiong stubbornly persevered. He was unyielding and fearless with his ever-blooming viburnum flower. He used all kinds of methods that he should not have used to harass and fight. He also used all kinds of methods to continuously improve himself. After a period of encirclement and suppression, many experts from the three great sects and the government were surprised to find that although the number of people in the Heavenly Armament Pavilion was decreasing, their destructive power was increasing. They were like unkillable cockroaches. They were getting more and more annoying. This was especially true for the leader called Xie Danqiong. In the beginning, he could only attack and then retreat. At best, he was a small character like a joke. However, after a period of time, his blooming viburnum flower could actually kill a saint-level expert. It was effortless. Fire, theft, and viburnum flowers. Kill Xie Danqiong first. Talk about other things later. With this decision, Xie Danqiong's situation became more and more difficult and dangerous. However, Xie Danqiong was not afraid. Instead, he became more and more spirited. On one of the main roads leading to Lone Bamboo City, there was a girl in white. She looked at the people in front of her with a face full of impatience and disdain. The people in front of her were a team of bear men. The bear man in front of her was full of anger. Lowly slave, my clansmen only wanted to make friends with you. And you actually used such a vicious poison on them. Hurry up and hand over the antidote. If my people die, I will bury you with them. The bear man shouted anxiously. Behind him, the two bear men were constantly emitting white mist. Clearly, they were using all their strength to maintain the life of the bearman lying on the ground. However, those with discerning eyes could already see that the two bearmen were barely keeping the bearman alive. Moreover, as the poison spread, the effect of the two bearmen's cultivation was getting weaker and weaker. They might not be able to hold on at any time. Many bear men looked at each other in horror. What kind of poison was this? It could not even force out two saint-level experts. It was not even enough to keep him alive. What a terrifying poison. The girl in white said indifferently, "Make friends? Do you have to use force to make friends? Would there be aphrodisiacs in making friends? If I can make friends like this, then I've learned something today. Or perhaps I should say that your culture here is very unique, that's all." She pondered for a moment and then sneered. "If that's really the case, then I don't mind introducing a few friends to those who have sisters, wives, and concubines. I believe you won't mind."